building. But I thought I'd just touch on one aspect of it, which is the facade. And I think it's how architects often do their best work, by being good observers for things. It always intrigues me when we see the very expensive specialists that so many clients bring into projects. And I think architects always at their best provide amazing resource for their clients. And he's a pretty tough commercial client, but the way we look at so many things and the way we understand cities sort of comes free when we work on projects. So I think it's where most architects, when they engage with the city, provide enormous benefit beyond their fee regime. So the first thing we did said this building will sit and reflect its many neighbours as well as the clouds and so forth. So we actually took a series of digital photos of all of the neighbouring structures, and particularly this vast steel structure of the adjoining tower. We then transposed these, what we call these embedded reflections, and pixelated them through a series of shifts till they became this unwrapped facade reflections in the spandrel. So this becomes then the spandrel that then surrounds each of the floor plates around the tower, carving out through them to then get these narrow spandrel shapes. Then a frit pattern on the glass, this subtle forward layer. You saw the Melbourne Grammar, we loved playing around with these ceramic frits. So again, then we got into various grey and silver tones into this frit pattern to apply that again in its strips on the glass. Then looking at the glass itself to get it as clear as we possibly could, because we wanted to see those. The patterning, looking carefully at the mullion set out and the sort of the vertical, to enhance this vertical characteristic, particularly in its radial form. And then these other fins, we put in these alternate fins by putting these outriggers onto our glazing bars and putting them over 2 floors and alternating them, having them staggered in the grids right around this radial form, would enhance, like almost putting a gauze over the tower, again its radial characteristic. So then applying all those together, they're all very subtle. It certainly won't be a building that shouts out any of these things, but there's this whole series of strategies that will subtly provide quite a distinctive facade treatment to this tower, and hopefully be evocative in its part in the centre of the city plan. Union at Milton. This is a project of ours, and why it's interesting, I'll just touch on one aspect of that, which is just sheer complexity. For us, it was a project we got in stages. Firstly, it was to do just a residential tower, but it's on top of an old neighbourhood railway station, the second stop out from the centre of Brisbane. And it's where the government has a fantastic initiative. Rather than the city drifting out, or the suburbs drifting out, they'd create this massive new population spike. So as any good city should, place it on an existing rail network. And so what looks like the most audacious act is there's this small area of 2- and 3-storey buildings, none of them heritage. It's a pretty dowdy sort of area with a lot of work that was done in the 50s and 60s, but build a new railway station, a small civic square, a large commercial building, a hotel, some retail and a 30-storey apartment tower, all on this teeny pocket handkerchief piece of land. And then from there allow other developers rights to actually come down from this spike in a pattern of massive development to actually add population growth around this major rail hub. But what's interesting to us is sort of the big ideas came quickly on how we could get the whole thing to work, and now we are in the design development stage starting to look at linkage and really the fine grain, as we enjoy doing as a practice, the small areas, the staircases. A late suggestion of ours was a market, a fantastic client there now looking for somebody who wants to run a market in this small civic square, and so stitching together just all of the detail things that must be so important in a project of vast scale. So all our model making, but here we are at the moment just building more crude working models, stitching together roofs that provide verandas, which because of the particular weather patterns of Brisbane, they say they are verandas of a tavern. So the traditional tavern has this vast veranda, but we actually need landscaping. So on the top, the whole of the top of that roof is a landscape that the various occupants of both the commercial and the residential building will look down on. The way we're actually pulling the curtain wall of the commercial building down to become a portal over the main means of entry up into the small civic square. So we're still actually, at the frustration of our client at the moment, as I left the office, playing around with not the big things, but all of the raft of little things that we believe will be, if it is to be a successful project, the necessary elements of its success.